Hi guys, welcome to Krityum and Krityum Handmade. We post DIY, tutorial and product review videos on sewing, knitting, crochet, wire jewelry and more right here on our YouTube channel. So if you are interested in any of these crafts, come join us and let's make stuff together. Hey guys, today we are going to make a cushion cover. Here I have done a crochet as you go piece with the small patches of made with yarn. It's acrylic, and I'm going to back it up with cotton and a little batting for the front piece, and then a heavy fabric for the backing piece. So here's how it is done. So here I have some recycled fabric from other projects, and we are going to use this to make the backing and the back because it's a heavy upholstery weight fabric. Here is the print side, and for the back of the front we are going to have to use the print showing through the small spaces that are showing through these motifs. So here's how it looks. As you see, it's lacy, so it will be better if the front shows the fabric print. So I'm just going to lay it, making sure there's no overlapping fabric underneath so I don't cut double pieces. And I've already measured this square. It is a 15 by 15 inch square. So basically I just need a quilting ruler and I need some tailor's chalk, and we are going to start marking the borders. So one thing to keep in mind is the borders need to be a bit bigger than the actual yarn square, since we need to give some space for the seaming allowance. So what I'll do is I'll take this quilter's ruler and I'll give a 1/2 inch seam allowance all around. So basically my finished square should be 15.5 by 15.5. So here I have laid it down, and this is my quilter's chalk, and I'm going to mark the fabric. Doesn't matter if you're marking with the on the front side or the back side of the fabric, since this is the seaming allowance and it's going to go under. So this side is done. Now we need to mark this side. So carefully lay it down without stretching the fabric underneath, and mark it with a light hand. Now we are on to our third side. And here is our last side. So making sure, since we have blocked the piece that I have made with crochet, it's a perfect square. If you just try and make a backing for a freshly crocheted piece, that's not going to work. You will need to back it up, and you need to block it up before you need to back it up. So if you're making a crochet piece with a thread, you can use spray starch, but if you're making it with yarn, you will need to have a steam iron or some sort of steaming appliance in order to pin the block into place, into its right size, and then steam it so that it stays in that size. So basically, if you can see, here is the square that I have marked with chalk all around. Now all I need to do is double this fabric up so that I have two pieces of it in the end. since this is a very big fabric, I don't want to waste too much of it, and I'm going to use it very efficiently. At least I'll try. So what I'm going to do is match selvage to selvage. There. And fold it exactly on the chalk line. So if I need to move it a bit, that's all right. There you go. And just smooth the fabric out, and then grab your scissor and cut it all around. So here I'm not going to cut the bottom piece of this fabric because I need to make an overlap pillow cover, cushion cover. So if I cut it from here, it's not going to be the right size. So basically I'll cut the top on one side, and I'll leave the other side, the longer side, down in order to make an envelope back. So this two sides will match, but the back fabric needs to be a bit longer. So the calculation for that would be about 2/3, two pieces, which are 2/3 of 15.5 inches. So I'm going to calculate that and then get back to you guys. First, let me finish the cutting of the front. And if I didn't say that already, you need a pretty sharp scissor, or a rotary mat and a cutter would work too. So basically my front is all cut. It's a square, but we need to cut the back. So what I'll do is use my, to extend this fabric a bit and use the calculator to figure out how much 2/3 of 15.5 is. So let me use my calculator for that. And sorry if I'm off screen because my calculator is on my computer. So 15.5 into 2 is equal to 31 divided by 3, which will be 10.3. So let's say I'll keep it 10.5 by 15.5, two pieces. So there are two ways of doing it. Either just extend this for two pieces of 10.5, or mark your one piece and then fold it over and cut it like we did the front. So I'm looking for my chalk and I can't seem to find it. That's all right, I'll use another one. Alright, so let's see. We need a 10.5 inch piece. And now to that, I need to add a 1/2 inch again for folding on one of the edges that is open in order to have the correct seam allowance. So I'll have it 11 by 15.5. That's one side marked. And this will be the other side marked. So I'll go ahead and connect these two to make a straight line. Like that. And then I'm simply going to fold this. It'll be easier if I fold it this way and then flip it over. So basically I need to flip this in order to see where to cut. And there you go, I found my chalk. That's okay. So here's what we're going to do now. I'm going to look for my mark, the folding line, and I'm going to match the edges completely straight. Otherwise my back would be at an angle. So make sure not to extend anything too much or stretch anything rather. And that's it. So we need to simply cut these two pieces off at the same size. That's the side one, that's the open side. Hopefully this could be the open side too, but I'm going to look at the print and see which one would look better. That's the second. And this one, which seems to have gone a bit wonky, left hand. So if you don't know already, I'm ambidextrous, so I basically can use both my hands to do anything, and that comes in handy sometimes. So that's 3 sides cut. And now I'm going to cut on this fold line exactly to have exactly the same size pieces for my back. And we are done. So now let's see what the pieces look like. Here is one piece, and here is the second piece, which is exactly the same size. Now I'm going to try and figure out which is the right side, or how will it look oriented overlap. So basically it's going to be overlapped like this to 15.5 inches, and this is my front piece, which is a perfect square, and that's going to be here. In order to sew it, before that we need to finish these edges that are going to overlap. So basically, let's see how the print is going to appear. Looks like it's sideways oriented, so this is fine, and this is fine as well. So I'm going to keep them like this, and I'm going to go to my sewing machine now and finish these edges. This edge, I'm going to fold it over 1/2 inch. Remember, we took a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then we're going to fold it over once more because we had that 0.2, and this will be just fine because it'll still have ample room for overlap. And let's meet at the sewing machine. Alright, so while I was away, I went ahead and serged the pieces all around, and it doesn't matter what thread color you use to serge your piece, since this is going to end up in the seam allowances. So let's start with the next steps for the cushion cover. So the next step is to attach this. As you can see, there are holes here where we've joined the motifs. Next step is to attach this front onto the front. So this is how it's gonna work. We're gonna center it. As you can remember, we had put a 1/2 inch seam allowance all over, so we're trying to eyeball it and fix it to that seam allowance. And in my machine, I have gone ahead and put maroon thread, and I'm going to use a zigzag, a white zigzag, and maybe a bit large. I'll use a 3-point length and a 4.5 width of the zigzag, and I'm going to go ahead and attach this on all 4 sides. So starting here on one corner, making sure the motifs line up straight. Helping the fabric wherever it seems to get stuck. One side done. With the needle inside, I'm going to pivot it and then secure this end. Now we're going to do this side. Slowly attaching it, making sure the motifs don't turn. Making sure we're going straight. Side. This will take a nice press to fix the puckering. If you can see, a little bit of puckering is happening because this is yarn and I seem to have stretched it a bit. But since this is acrylic, it's gonna wash in the machine nicely, and we've used a cotton backing. That's gonna work fine too. And now we're on to the last side. And now when we secure that, you can see it's going to lie flat. So hopefully we don't mess anything up on this one. Ease it in a bit because as you know, yarn can stretch and we don't want it to stretch. We want it to lie absolutely flat. And secure it with a couple of back stitches. I'm gonna snip off my threads on the ends. And that seems to be done. That's it for the front. Now if you can see the stitches here a bit because my yarn is maroon. I could have used a nylon thread and it would have blended in nicely. You can see the back here. I've put zigzag stitches all over. Maybe you can see it better this way. And that's the front for us. Now what we want to do is take our two envelope back pieces, and on one side we're gonna fold it by about a scant ½ inch and then fold it again to finish one long side of the rectangles. And for this we can use a small straight stitch, a regular straight stitch. So here we go, not to forget backing up securing the thread in the beginning and end. Actually, you don't need to do that, but as a matter of practice, I've always done that. Help the fabric move in a bit, and that's it for this one. So that's one side, the perfect finishing, and we do the same on this side. Let me check the orientation. So if this is the right way that I wanted it, this fellow should be like this. Okay, perfect. So this end needs to be finished. So I fold it again in the same way and start. Now, since these beginning and end sides will be secured in the seam around the cushion, we are all right if we don't do a back stitch in the beginning and end. That's it for that one, and both of these will be secured like this. Now all I have to do is snip off the end. That's our last, and that's it. Now the assembly. Now I'm going to leave this simple because it's just a plain cushion cover for me, for my house, and it's going to be in my studio, so I don't need it to be very fancy. But if you're going to put it in your family or living room, you might want to put a trim over that stitch that we have made to secure the yarn square over our cotton fabric. So this side front, right side up, and these back sides that we had aligned, we just need to flip them this way and make sure our ends match up. Now I don't use as many pins, but you're welcome to use pins if you want, and I'm just gonna match up the ends and just give a nice seam all around. So beginning on one corner and going about half an inch in with a half an inch seam allowance all over, and then just get the seam all around. I'm using the foot as my guide for the seam, so my end of the fabrics will always be under the end of the foot. So my machine will take heavy fabrics easily, but if you're using a regular home sewing machine, you might want to use a walking foot for this. And also, I'm not using batting. You might want to use batting if you're using a quilting weight cotton, but this is an upholstery weight, so I don't need batting. And right before I reach about leaving about half an inch from the end, I'm going to pivot and secure this end. Again, using my foot as the seam guide. Making sure my ends are all matched up properly. Nothing is peeking off the edge. And go ahead and give this a snip. We're almost done with the project. Again, making sure I'm matching up my seams properly. Since this is a simple project, I don't need to use pins. You can if you wish to. If you want to. Nobody's stopping you. Or we have those wonder clips these days, and those will work well as well. Again, stopping right before half an inch of the edge and using my foot as my seam guide. Just give it a tug and it's going to line on its own. Over. Now all we need to do to give this a nice sharp edge, when we turn it, we need to snip off, making sure we're not snipping off the stitching on the corners. We just snip off these corners. Now the other thing is to prevent dog ears when you put your cushion form in. You can curve this edge a bit. So if you can see, this is a right angle. You can curve this a bit, and that would prevent your dog ears when you put this in your pillow form. Rather, you put your pillow form in it. And I'm just going to finish the corners. All 4 of them, and then we're going to turn it and press it. So as you see, here we have an opening, and securing this end, we're just going to turn it. And we have a nice corner. If if you feel that you need a bit more of a pointed edge, you can use the point of your scissors, but make sure not to poke through the fabric. And you do the same for all 4 corners. Perfect. That's one side done. To the next 2 sides. Perfect. And the last one. So it helps me to just bend one of the sides into the seam and then thrust it out, so my corner is nice and pointy. And there's my envelope back for the pillow cover, and that's my front. And as you can see, it looks pretty neat. Now, all we need to do is to give it a nice steam with our iron, and we should be all good. So I'm pressing the fabric now, and since I have used acrylic yarn, I have to make sure I don't iron directly over it, or I'm going to ruin the yarn. So I'll do it the other way around, and making sure all my seams have been rolled out and are flush. Nothing is wonky. I'm gonna just give it a nice steam. And that's about all that it's gonna take to give it a nice finish. If you see this edge showing up from behind, all you need to do is put your hand in and scoot it in a bit, and then try to roll the seam so that the edge is completely outside, and then you go ahead and give it a nice press. And this will give a good finish to your project. 2 sides left. Trying to see if everything is flush. Just make it flush, and we will be good to go. So now it's proper, finished and crisp edges, and we are all set. All that we need to do is put a bit of foam in and enjoy our project. So thanks for viewing my video. If you find it helpful, please do like and subscribe, because I'm planning to add in a lot of tutorials and helpful videos in the future on sewing, knitting, crochet. And please look at the information on the screen or in the description box below the video to find us on the other social networks. Thank you.